It takes a long time to get anywhere in Parliament House, either physically or philosophically. Every day seems to involve endless trekking down wide, white, art and sculpture-filled corridors. Every conversation feels as if you're navigating an ideological labyrinth from which you may never emerge alive. Of course, most of us don't have to walk the corridors of Parliament House on a regular basis, and few of us need to concern ourselves with the intellectual voyages of political life. But this year, every Australian of voting age was asked to make a personal journey in the service of Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull's government. More than 12 million of us, almost 4/5 of Australia's eligible voters, walked to post boxes, pulled up in no parking zones, and queued in post offices to send our answers to Canberra on the question of whether same-sex couples should be allowed to marry. And close to 8 million of us, 62%, said yes. What few realized when we made these journeys was that at the end of them all was not a prime minister or political party poised to turn our wishes into law. Instead, there was just one dark-haired man, wearing a neatly pressed shirt and tie, sitting in an office along one of those wide white corridors. This Christmas, every Australian is free to marry the person they love, for the first time ever, because of him. Dean Smith describes himself as the invisible man. "I am that person in the room nobody notices," he says evenly. "People don't even know I am there." This is not true. I met Smith through friends more than a decade ago, in our early 30s, and though we did know each other well, I remembered him. He wore perfect collared shirts, was a devout Anglican, and was gay. He was also a Liberal Party member, the first member of his working-class family to go to university, to study politics, and a proud monarchist. As if all this was unusual enough, he was earnestly, unashamedly enthusiastic about politics. He had no cynicism at all. A mutual friend remembers him leaning over in a taxi in Sydney's King's Cross, in the middle of a big night out, and confessing, fervently, "I am a passionate federalist." In those days, Smith was working in Sydney for insurance firm IAG, after periods on the staff of Western Australia Premier Richard Court, Prime Minister John Howard, and then Minister for Aged Care Bronwyn Bishop. But after he left Sydney in 2007, I completely lost touch with him. I had no idea he'd become a senator for Western Australia in 2012. Then, on November the 16th this year, the day after the postal survey result was announced, I saw a photo of a small man in an immaculate suit and tie, green eyes crinkling as he smiled. "Senator Dean Smith," ran the caption, "whose private member's bill to legalize same-sex marriage will go before the Senate tomorrow." Dean Smith. I thought. That Dean Smith, a week later, when I confessed this story over dinner at a Chinese restaurant in Canberra, he smiles. "See?" he says in his quiet voice. Invisible man. It's Monday morning in the final week of November, and Smith's snappily titled Marriage Amendment, Definition and Religious Freedoms, Bill 2017 is set to be debated in the Senate. Sitting in his office at 7 a.m., the man himself, now 48, looks surprisingly similar to my memory of him 15 years ago, short and compact, though with a little Anno Domini expansion, with a cherubic face and another perfect collared shirt.